Now to the legal landscape. Our legal analyst, attorney Dan Adams, joins us every Monday to break down the biggest cases happening across Wisconsin and the country. Dan, good morning to you. A case happening here that could have national implications is, of course, the federal trial of Milwaukee County Judge Hannah Dugan. She's accused of helping an undocumented immigrant evade immigration officials at the courthouse back in April. Opening statements get underway this morning. Jurors in the case were questioned very carefully last week, even privately. How significant and even unusual is that level of vetting in this type of case?
Hey, good morning. It's not unusual at all. Remember, these are people that received a summons all from the eastern side of Wisconsin to come to Milwaukee to sit on a panel to see if they want to be or if they're eligible to be members of this very high profile case. So not knowing anything about it other than what's been reported in the media, they come in. It's a very unusual process for the layman, for the citizen who comes in one time, maybe in their lifetime to sit as a juror. And imagine you're sitting in a panel with all these other potential jurors. You've got media, lawyers, everybody watching you be questioned by a judge. Sometimes people get very anxious and they don't articulate maybe what's going through their head about whether or not they can be a fair juror. So to have an opportunity for them to have a more private setting with the judge, with the attorneys, as well as a court reporter who's writing down everything that they're being questioned about is a better way to get potential jurors to be more articulate, to say what they're really thinking. And again, in something like this, where this all involves ICE's more aggressive tactics since Trump came back into office, it's very controversial, and people may not want to talk about that in an open courtroom. So giving them a little more private venue to discuss candidly to see whether or not they can be impartial and unbiased towards both Hannah Dugan and the government is not unusual. And again, the court transcripts were released shortly after court let out. So this isn't being, in the cover of night. It's still a very transparent process, and it's not unusual at all.
Yeah, that jury seated after one day of jury selection. 14 members, they'll all hear the case, but 12 of them will deliberate, 2 alternates. Prosecutors say they plan to call as many as 28 witnesses in what's expected to be about a week-long trial. What do you expect that we'll see inside the courtroom, and how realistic is it that Judge Dugan could take the stand in her own defense?
Yeah, that's a whole lot there. So 28 witnesses on the government's witness list. I looked at it. I think about half of those, maybe up to 20, will actually testify. There's some redundancies, people who would probably be testifying about the same fact pattern. Again, there's no expert witnesses. There's no forensic. There's no digital people. This may be the first trial in a long time that doesn't have a whole aspect of, scientific experts testifying. So all of these witnesses are going to testify pretty quickly. And again, we're talking about a controversy that was maybe 15 minutes in its entirety. So these witnesses mostly are going to be law enforcement, and they're going to be prepared, and they're going to testify pretty quickly. I don't think we're going to get to the end of the week for the government's case. I think they'll probably be done in the afternoon of Wednesday, again, because they don't have to select a jury. That's been done last week. This is going to go very, very quickly. Whether or not Hannah Dugan then, when it's the defense's side decides to testify, that is the big question. And it's going to be up to whether the defense believes that the government has proven their case at that point, and the strategic elements of whether or not she testifies. Again, that's totally her choice. She doesn't have to do it, and it can't be held against her if she decides not to.